orange one today, which my favorite color. We are talking about limp and loose in labor. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have something that I want to grab real quick, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back from my doula bag, which was in the closet. So this is my little cheat sheet that I bring to births, and it's super helpful. If you would like this cheat sheet, we are actually selling these along with 8 other of our most popular handouts, and I'm going to put the link down below in the description. It's 8 for $8, so very affordable, and bring these right in your bag, or if you are a doula or a childbirth educator, you can get them and use them with your clients. So check out that link below. Limp and loose in labor. What that means is if you release tension in your body during labor, you can have contractions that are more effective of dilating and effacing your cervix, and you will experience less pain in labor. Now, I'd love for you to check out after this video our video on fear, tension, pain. That's right here. So that really explains how fear and tension and pain are all related. And one of the things that you can do in labor to decrease pain is to decrease tension, and then that leads to less fear, tension, pain, all reducing. Anyway, decreasing tension in your body is what I call limp and loose in labor. Now, a few years back, I created a handout, and I really created it for me to use as a doula, and then I found out that other doulas might want to use it too. And it's called 8 Practical Tips for Limp and Loose in Labor. And I actually laminated my copy, which is a little bit smaller than an actual, it's about a half sheet. So I would love to talk about these 8 practical tips because they're simple, easy ways to remind yourself and to trick your body to be limp and loose in labor. So the first one is to open your mouth and let your lower jaw hang. It's really like that. It's almost like the face that I see on my kids when they're playing a video game, like they're playing Mario Kart, and I walk around the corner and they're like this. They are. Loosening up your jaw and letting it hang nice and loose helps the cervix relax. It's so weird that that's related. The cervix and the jaw, they have shown through research that if you have a clenched jaw, your cervix will be tighter. So that was number 1. Number 2 is shake out your arms and hands. So just shake them out. And that's a nice thing, like after a contraction, say you have a strong contraction, just do a quick shake out. You know, you've seen people do that. Musicians do it before they're going to play the piano, just a little shake out, nice and loose. The third one is to blow horse lips, which we do have a video on that. This one, horse lips, is like this. Not super pretty, but very effective on loosening everything up, right? The fourth one is to rest your hands with your palms facing up. Now, the reason that I suggest this is that squeezing in labor brings a lot of tension. Squeezing. And if you have your hands up, you're not able to really grip onto something, and it just helps you relax. I remember I had a client that was sitting in a rocking chair, rocking when the contraction came. And every time the contraction came, she would want to clench onto the arms of the chair. You can imagine it, and rock through. Yeah. And I said, next contraction, try it with your arms up. And it took a little bit because she really wanted to clench and brace, but then once she got the hang of it, it was like, oh, that's much better. That's much better. And that's going to be more effective at reducing that tension in our body. Okay, so the fifth one has to do with our shoulders, which is where I keep all of my tension. I'll be walking around like this, making dinner. So if you just move your shoulders up and down, it kind of brings awareness to your shoulders and you feel like, oh, those did feel tight. Okay, shoulders up and down. Same idea as shaking off your arms. Shoulders up and down, just being aware of your shoulders and to keep them loose. The fifth the sixth one is to have your support team say words like limp and loose, ragdoll, or go boneless. So those are great phrases that your support people can do to trigger your mind to remember, oh yeah, limp and loose in labor. Oh, I remember that video that I saw with the big wheel of birth, to be nice and loose. Yeah. So support team, that's something definitely you can do, is to use those words. Okay, so we're on to the seventh one, which is my favorite. Check in with your bum. No bum clenching. Okay, so when you have that contraction, a lot of people want to tense everything up, like brace yourself. And one of the things that can be braced is your butt. So do not tense up your butt. Try to loosen, have a nice relaxed butt, because when we're tensing our butt, we're tensing our pelvic floor, we're tensing everything below. And that's not what we want. We want loose, we want open, we want relaxed. So check in with your butt. Support team, you can always say, hey, no bum clenching, limp and loose, ragdoll, go boneless. Okay, the final one, the eighth one, is just to wiggle it. If anything seems tight, give your muscles a wiggle. And sometimes, especially if you're doing like a lot of positions in labor, if you're doing some squats or lunges or something like that, try to just and you can't see, I'm wiggling my legs right now, but take your legs, wiggle them out, roll your feet around, maybe roll your neck, just kind of almost like you were going to stretch for a workout that you haven't done before. So be nice and loose and limp. And that is going to help, again, if we loosen up our body and we decrease tension, then we should have less pain, less fear. Make sure to check out that fear, tension, pain video. The other thing I wanted to remind you guys, if you don't know yet, or if you're not in the course yet, that all of these videos have been organized into a free course called Birth A to Z. So I'd love for you to jump in there, and you can jump between different sections and maybe take a look at all of your comfort measures right now. Where at one time you could sit down with your partner, Netflix style, and go through all the comfort measures. We're talking about position. I don't want to talk about that. You know what? I want to talk about Ring of Fire. Can I do that? Is that allowed? Let's do it. You know why? Because I got a question about the Ring of Fire today, and I really want to talk about it. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to talk about Ring of Fire. I cheated. Let me know in the comments if you think that was wrong. Okay. The Ring of Fire is not just a song by Johnny Cash. Do you like that song? Okay. What Ring of Fire is what people call, it's the term that people call when the baby's head is on your perineum and crowning. Now, let me grab my baby. It's right over here. Okay, baby. Now, as the baby emerges from our body, our perineum, which is the skin around the opening of our vagina, in between our anus and our vagina, is called the perineum, and that skin has to stretch to allow the baby out. And it's actually a process that really works pretty well, in that the Ring of Fire, what is happening there is as your skin is stretching around the baby's head, a lot of times that stretching can cause a burning sensation. So the burning sensation is the fire, and the ring is the ring of skin around the baby's head. Now, the purpose of the Ring of Fire is when you feel that Ring of Fire, what generally you do when you feel fire is to stop touching it, right? And so the Ring of Fire kind of clues us in to slow down our pushing and allow our skin to stretch a little bit more before we really give effort to push the baby out. Now, the hard part comes in a couple of ways. First of all, sometimes our care providers, our OBs or midwives, might say to us, push past the burn. And it might be something that you do need to do because say baby's heart rate has gone down, or they're really hoping baby is delivered quickly, and you don't have time to really allow that skin to stretch properly. So you might have to feel the burn and just continue pushing past. But if you have the ability to slow down and listen to your body and allow those tissues to stretch naturally, then you should have less chance of having a tear on your perineum. Now, what is surprising for a lot of people is that the way that the skin there works with the Ring of Fire is that if you do experience a tear, you usually do not feel the tear happening. That's weird, right? Like, did I blow your minds? I know that seems really strange for a lot of people. Like, how can you not feel a tear happening? Well, because what happens is when the skin is stretched out, that is almost like a numbing effect that happens around that skin. And so many times, I'm talking many times, I have had clients ask me, did I tear? Or I don't have any idea if I tore or not. And in fact, sometimes they have torn, but they didn't feel it because of that numbing effect that happens right at the Ring of Fire time. So I know this is a sensitive subject, and I'm talking about a place in the body that is a sensitive place and something we don't want to tear. And a lot of times a lot of people have a lot of fear over that phase of labor, that crowning and pushing phase. But I do want to assure you that that is a normal sensation, that Ring of Fire and that numbing effect on the skin, on your perineum. And if you can feel the Ring of Fire and are able to slow down your pushing a bit, it does help. Now, here's a question that I get a lot, is if you have an epidural, do you feel the Ring of Fire? I would say most people don't feel that burning sensation if they have an epidural. But epidurals don't take away the pressure sensation. And as the baby is putting all of that pressure on your cervix, and then the pressure of the baby coming through your birth canal, coming down through your vagina, that is a lot of pressure. And epidurals don't take that pressure away. So likely you will still feel a pressure sensation with an epidural, just not necessarily the Ring of Fire. So I also find that people sometimes will say, my epidural stopped working because I felt everything, and that's likely not the case that your epidural stopped working. I mean, sometimes they do, but a lot of times it's just the sensation of that pressure is kind of alarming because the epidural takes away contraction pain, and you're used to not feeling that pressure. So something to think about. Okay, today we are talking about fetal monitors. Now, when you are in labor, there are a few types of monitors. There are the monitors that monitor contractions and the ones that monitor babies. The baby monitor is called the fetal monitor. And the contraction monitor, we did another spin, and you can find the video here. I'll link it down below. Now, when we talk about fetal monitors, that is monitoring the baby's heart rate. And so you've likely experienced one type of fetal monitor, and that is the Doppler. So the Doppler is that handheld monitor that they use on your belly with some gel to listen to your baby's heart rate. And Doppler monitors are sometimes also used in labor. It depends on your care provider. So if you are giving birth at a birth center or you're giving birth at home, they often use the Doppler on an intermittent basis. So after a certain number of minutes, and then they usually listen before, during, and after a contraction with that monitor on your belly, at least for a certain amount of time when you are in labor. So the Doppler is something that can be used as a fetal monitor in labor. Also, sometimes if you are in a tub, laboring in a tub in a hospital or birth center setting, the baby might be monitored intermittently with a Doppler monitor. Or if you are in a shower, sometimes your provider will just sneak in and listen to the baby with a Doppler in the shower. Now, the other two types of fetal monitors are ones that are done more on a continuous basis, not necessarily all at one time, but that they're put on and they stay on you for a time period, not just on off like those Dopplers are. So one are the external fetal monitors. So those are a monitor, they're about this big, and they rest on your belly, and they usually have to be positioned in a spot that can really pick up the baby's heart rate. So that's one that sometimes will have to be repositioned as the baby moves down, or if the baby moves around, sometimes the fetal heart rate will not show up, and so then they have to adjust it. So the external fetal monitors are generally held onto your belly with a stretchy band, and they go on the outside of your belly. Now there is another type of fetal monitor that's becoming more popular that is almost like a sticker that sticks onto your belly, and that is an option that we're seeing more available around, but that is another option. So the fetal heart rate monitor is fairly accurate. It just sometimes it will pick up maternal heart rate if the baby moves, or it will not pick up a heart rate if the baby moves. So that is where it's sometimes not accurate. And then the other type of fetal monitor is the fetal scalp electrode monitor. And what that is, it is a monitor it's almost like a wire that is inserted into your vagina up through your cervix, and it has like a little corkscrew wire that goes into the couple layers of skin on the baby's scalp. And I always find that in class when I talk about it and describe it, sometimes I see grimaces and ooh. But it doesn't go deep into the baby's skin. It's almost like if you had a safety pin and you kind of stuck it into your thumb, you don't feel it. It hits those top layers of skin. It doesn't go deep. So that monitor, the fetal scalp electrode, is often done if your provider cannot get a good monitoring of the baby with the external fetal monitor, and they really need that continuous monitoring of the fetal heart rate. You would need to be monitored your baby's heart rate would need to be monitored continuously, either with the external or the internal, for a couple different reasons. One, if you have any type of drugs in your system, so IV narcotics, if you're getting Pitocin, if you have an epidural, any of those reasons, you would need your baby's heart rate would need to be monitored continuously. So, for example, if you had an epidural, they could not get the baby accurately on your external monitor. They might suggest the internal fetal scalp electrode monitor. Now, sometimes you have an option on which type you want. If they're suggesting the fetal scalp electrode, you might be able to ask, can we just do the external? But if they're really concerned, they definitely would want to do the fetal scalp electrode monitor, so that they can have a real accurate picture of the baby. So fetal monitors are done in labor. One thing that we see, that if you are not monitored on a continuous basis, if you have intermittent monitoring, so that is if you're low risk and your care providers agree to only monitoring you a few minutes out of every hour, or 15 minutes or so out of every hour, the fetal heart rate is definitely something that they will always want to get initially when you come into the hospital. So it's one of the very first things. Getting the fetal monitor set up and working correctly is what you will see as a top priority when you get to the room that you're going to give birth in, especially if it's a hospital setting. Usually most providers want to get about 20 minutes of a clear fetal heart rate strip, is what they call it, a strip of contractions, and that lets them know how your baby's doing. So it's a real quick check on how your baby's doing. So fetal monitors are very important. Ooh, I like it. Talking about 511. Now, 511 is not a phone number that you're going to dial, like 411 for information or anything like that, or 911. No, 511 is what a lot of doctors, your OB, your midwife will say is the time that you should come into the hospital. But what the heck does it mean? Let's break down these numbers. So 5 is the frequency of the contractions. So if you need a little refresher on frequency and duration in depth, check out this video on timing contractions after this one. But let's talk about it. What this means is your frequency of your contractions are 5 minutes apart. So the contractions are coming every 5 minutes. So a contraction starts, it goes, it stops, and it starts again, and that time from a start to a start is 5 minutes. Contractions are 5 minutes apart. That's what that means. Here is something that I think people get confused on, or it's just a common misconception, especially if you're using a contraction timer app. And the app is so exact, right? Because you press it when it starts, you press it when it finishes. Press, 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 press. You're not just kind of watching secondhand on a clock. So it's really exact. So what a lot of people see is they'll see a contraction that's like 5.5 minutes apart, then one that's 6 minutes apart, then one that's 4 and 45 seconds apart, then one that's 5, 10 and apart. Okay, they're not exactly 5 minutes apart, but wouldn't you say they're about 5 minutes apart? Yes. So that about 5 minutes apart is really what you're looking for, not to the very second, because truthfully, the person that is experiencing labor, they might not say exactly when the contraction starts or exactly when the contraction ends, okay? So there's a little give in those numbers. So this 5 means about 5 minutes apart. Now, if they were like 8 minutes apart, then 9, then 12, then 10, that is not 5 minutes apart. Or on the other side, if they're like 3 minutes apart, and then 3.5, and then 2, no, not 5 minutes apart. If they are less than that, then your provider wants you to come in. Okay, so 511. First, the 5 is the frequency of your contractions. The second one is for the duration of the contraction. So that means from the start of the contraction to the stop. So, I'm feeling a contraction, it's going, that whole thing goes click, 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 and it's totally over, and it's about a minute. Again, this is an approximate. If you have a contraction that's like 70 seconds, and then one that's 55 seconds, and then one that's 59 seconds, and that's about a minute apart. So that is your second one, that the whole contraction lasts for a minute, about. So they're coming every 5 minutes. When they do come, they're lasting a minute long. And this third number is the one that everyone forgets, but you won't. And that is that pattern has stayed that way for an entire hour. So there has been a full hour that pretty much we've stayed in that pattern. And what I mean pretty much is there might be one contraction that like your partner goes into the bathroom or you go into the bathroom and they don't time, so you don't have exactly that, but it's about 511. So the 511 is for 5 minutes apart contractions that last a minute long, and that pattern has gone on for an entire hour. Now this is the pattern that a lot of doctors and midwives, like I said before, tell you it's an appropriate time to either call the office and let them know that you're in labor, that you want to come in, or to head in. Now, this number isn't set in stone. Even if your provider says, wait for 511, at any time you can call them and give them a heads up on other things that are going on. Because say if your water breaks, you feel shaky, you feel like pressure, like you want to push, there are many factors that might send you into the hospital faster. So make sure that you keep in contact and let your providers know what's going on. Also, if you are using a doula, they likely will want a heads up before this 511. That is, I would say, 100% your doula will want to know before you get to a 511, at least with some kind of heads up. And you will likely want a doula with you before that time. Not always, but often. So it is a good thing to ask. If you're like, I don't know what my provider wants. Perfect question to ask during one of your appointments with your providers. When would you like me to head into the hospital? Or if you are wanting to avoid intervention or wanting to, labor at home for a long time, this might not be the right time to go in for you. And again, it's something to discuss with your doctor or your midwife so they know exactly when you would like to get there and you guys are on the same page with that. So that is the breakdown of the 511. I hope that it made sense. Ooh, talking about hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy is one of my favorite things for labor. It's a big word for something super simple, and that is taking advantage of water for comfort during labor. Now, we did cover the shower in detail in this video right here, but the shower is a great place for hydrotherapy. So it's dark in there, or I suggest that we make it dark in that bathroom. We have the nice warm heat of the water, and whether it's on our back, whether it's on our belly, a shower can be excellent in labor. But what we haven't talked about, which is what a lot of people think about with hydrotherapy, and that is a tub. So getting in a tub in labor can be amazing, but wait, don't get in too early. If you want to get in early, it might stop labor. So let's talk about that. When do we get in a tub and when can we take advantage of some wonderful hydrotherapy? Getting in a tub, deep tub of water can really reduce the pain of contractions. But if we get in a tub in early labor, it can often slow down labor or send labor away for a while. Now, it's kind of magical though in very early labor. Let's say you go into labor and you haven't slept at all. So if you go into labor sometime at the end of your workday, at the end of the day, before you actually get any rest at night and you start feeling contractions, it is a great time to get in a bath. Have a little hydrotherapy and your body can relax enough that sometimes you can take a nap and get some rest or go to bed and get a few hours in before real labor kicks in. And I sometimes suggest this to my doula clients and they're like, I don't want labor to stop because I'm ready to go into labor. But trust me, getting some rest before labor starts is so key for the rest of your labor to go well. So getting in a bath then is excellent. Now, say labor picks up and it's going pretty strong, but contractions are still kind of far apart or they're not in a good pattern or a very reliable pattern, and you want to get in the tub. This is when you might want to say no to hydrotherapy, because at this time, it's probably a time that you want labor to keep going strong. And if the pattern isn't strong and reliable, long, strong, and close together, then there's another tendency for it to slow down again. And this might not be what you want to do. You really, when you get into a tub, if it's not long, if your contractions are not long, strong, and close together, you need to think to yourself, is now an okay time for labor to slow down? If the answer is yes, and you're like, yes, I probably could rest, or it's okay if it slows down, it'll pick back up, you know, it'll be fine, then it's okay, get in a tub. But say you are trying to strengthen contractions, maybe your water has broken and your care providers want you to make some real progress in labor, then hydrotherapy probably isn't the best. But when your contractions are long, strong, close together, and maybe you even know that you're in active labor because you've had a vaginal exam and you know you're already 6 centimeters, then it is a lovely time to make use of a tub. A nice, warm, deep tub can really take the edge off that pain, can give you some buoyancy and just feel a little bit lighter and a little bit better. And sometimes you even I've heard midwives and doulas call the tub an aquadural, so kind of like an epidural, but an aquadural, and because it really can relieve some pain and be a wonderful place for labor. So hydrotherapy is awesome. You've got the bath and you've got the shower. Just make note of the best times to use them. If your labor is not long and strong and close together, I would wait on the tub and maybe make use of the shower until you have that nice long active labor or transition labor where you can take advantage of the tub and not worrying about it slowing down contractions. Okay, today we are talking about physical touch. Now, physical touch is one of our just amazing ways to provide comfort to someone in labor. Now, if you are not in our free course that has all of the previous spins, get in there now, maybe not right now, but after this video. It's called birthatoz.com, and there is a section that you'll list that this video is found along with our other comfort measures. So physical touch is a great way to provide support in labor, and it's also a great way to receive support. So I want to start by saying I hear a lot of people either tell their birth story or talk about how they think their birth is going to go, depending upon where they are, if they've given birth or not. And I often hear this idea of, I didn't want to be touched in labor, or I don't think I'm going to want any touch during labor. And that it can definitely happen. I have definitely, as a doula, worked with people in labor that definitely don't find comfort from physical touch. So it can happen. It's not something that we can predict though. And so I find that even if someone who is preparing for labor and they say, oh, I don't find comfort from touch, I don't think I'll want to be touched, I think that we should still have those skills in our toolbox of support, and know that things might change and they might want physical touch. So I think that's very important. Now, you guys didn't see that, but I took a pause and I paused filming the video in order to get my cheat sheet that I love. And it's called 10 Ways to Give Physical Support, which has to do with physical touch. I have it in a little plastic sleeve so it doesn't get hurt. And you can get a copy of this 2 ways. So down below, there's a link for the free cheat sheet, but also we have it in a group of 8 handy handouts for labor that are just $8. And you can get this one in there and other ones as well. Okay, so grab that below. But I love to just go over some ideas on physical touch, and a lot of them we've already talked about in Big Wheel of Birth Spins. But we've got holding hands. That's a video to check out. You know, it's one of the easiest ways to provide support. It's just holding someone's hand. The second one is counter pressure on their lower back. So we've got the counter pressure video here. Giving a wet washcloth. Oh my gosh, a wet washcloth can feel just so good, so wonderful in labor, especially during pushing. This is the one magic pushing comfort measure I want everyone to have. Even if their partner doesn't think they're gonna want physical touch, Everyone wants a nice cool washcloth when they're pushing. Foot massage, which we haven't covered on the big wheel of birth yet, but when your partner has an epidural or laboring in bed, a great way is to give a massage, and actually the next one is hand massage. So hand massages are great if your partner has an epidural. Foot massages are better before an epidural, and really those massages are best, if they don't have an epidural, they're best in between contractions. So during contractions, they're probably working, breathing, concentrating, and then after the contraction's over, a massage, a hand massage is nice just to help kind of relax in between, release some of that stress in between. The next one we have slow dance, which is a video here. So, really allowing your body to rest its weight on your partner. The next one we haven't covered is called the hip squeeze. So that's applying pressure at the same time on your partner's hips from behind. And while it can be physically exhausting for the partner to do, it can feel wonderful for the person in labor, especially if they're experiencing some back labor. The next one is called light touch massage, and we haven't covered that one yet, but what that is, instead of, massage would be like really getting down deep into the muscles, light touch massage is just taking your hands, and usually you want to go all in one direction. So say from the bottom of your hand up their arm. You can also do it on their back. So if, pretend this is my person in labor right here, this is their back. As a doula, I like to do light touch massage like this, just up their back and over the shoulders, down from the base of their spine, up their back, over the base of their shoulders. I almost kind of think of it as like a water fountain, very light. Light, you guys can see, it's just lightly touching. So light touch massage is really lovely just in between contractions, just to help all those muscles just relax and get into that trance-like zone state. The next one is fanning. So having a paper or plastic fan is a really nice way to provide physical comfort. Now that's not necessarily physical touch, but physical comfort. The air is touching their skin and providing touch. And then this last one that I'm going to mention, sometimes I get funny looks when I suggest this, like, huh, what? But it's cuddling. So cuddling, kissing can increase oxytocin. Though if you're the person in labor, it might not sound at all appealing, but maybe it will. So, we've got tools in our toolbox. Sometimes we've got to try all of them to see what works. So 10 different ways to provide physical comfort. A lot of these, or most of them, are physical touch. And just don't forget that things can change in labor, and if physical touch is supportive now, it might not be supportive later, or vice versa, supportive, not supportive, and then they are liking it. But the other rule is just to try. Don't wait for your partner in labor to say, hey, can you do some light touch massage on my back? That's really probably not going to happen because they're too focused on what they're doing. Instead, if you're the support person, just say, hey, can I try some massage on your back like this? And then try it. If they say yes, try it. And they can always say, that's good, I don't like that, or can you try a different type of massage or something like that. But always try. Don't ask, do you want a washcloth for your forehead? Just go get the wet washcloth, wring it out, and hand it to her and say, oh, I have a wet washcloth for your brow. So much better than asking the question. You guys know that, right? Especially support people. Raise your hand, support people, if you understand that.